I want you to just close your eyes for a second. Picture this.
Okay.
You are on the island of Mustique. It's a private island in the Caribbean, the kind of place where rock stars and royalty go to hide out.
Right.
You're sitting on the veranda of a multi-million-dollar estate. The breeze is warm, the sea is turquoise, and you are sipping a glass of 1986 Chateau d'Yquem.
And that stuff, I mean, we're talking about one of the most expensive and celebrated dessert wines in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars a bottle.
Exactly. So you are obscenely wealthy. You have FU money. And yet, what do you decide to do? You spend your afternoon writing a book telling normal people that being rich is actually, well, kind of miserable.
It's a hell of a scene. And it perfectly captures the man we're doing a deep dive on today, Felix Dennis.
The book is called How to Get Rich. And I have to be honest, when I first picked this up, I kind of rolled my eyes.
I can see that.
It feels a bit like a guy standing at the finish line of a marathon, holding a gold medal and shouting back to the runners, hey, don't worry about winning. This medal is actually really heavy. Is this just a humble brag in book form?
I can see why you'd think that, but no.
Yeah.
That's what makes Felix Dennis so interesting. He wasn't some guru.
Right.
He wasn't selling a course on how to dropship on Amazon. He was a legitimate tycoon. He founded Maxim Magazine, The Week, Kung Fu Monthly. He made hundreds of millions of dollars in the absolute trenches of the publishing industry.
So he didn't need the book sales?
Not even a little bit. He actually calls this an anti-self-help book.
Ah, I like that.
He claims he wrote it to expose the brutal truth of wealth acquisition. He wanted to strip away all the manifesting abundance nonsense and show people that the road to getting rich is narrow, lonely, and, frankly, incredibly stressful.
He is so refreshingly cynical. There's no talk about aligning your chakras here.
Not at all.
It's all about cash flow, ownership, and, well, ruthlessness.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And while he admits money didn't bring him happiness, he suffered from depression, addiction, he does offer this very pragmatic counterpoint. He says, sure, money doesn't buy happiness, but it does improve your sex life.
Can't argue with that.
And more importantly, it buys you time, with a capital T. The freedom to be where you want, when you want.
Which brings us to the start of his argument. He had this wild past. He was part of the counterculture in London, involved in the Oz magazine obscenity trial in the 60s.
A hippie before he was a capitalist.
Exactly. But when he switches gears to business, he identifies this one massive obstacle that stops almost everyone from getting rich. He calls it the 800-pound gorilla.
The fear of failure.
Okay, but isn't that the oldest cliche in the book? Don't be afraid to fail. We hear that on every motivational Instagram reel.
True, but Dennis flips it. He doesn't say don't be afraid. He thinks that's impossible. He says you should be afraid.
You should be.
Yes. He argues that fear is actually a necessary fuel. If you aren't terrified of going broke, you probably won't work hard enough to get rich.
So he's not saying be fearless. He's saying harness the panic.
Exactly. He views fear as a source of adrenaline. When you are truly afraid of failure, you check the cash flow every single morning. You don't sign stupid leases. You don't get complacent.
You stay sharp.
You have to take that 800-pound gorilla and put it to work. If you ignore the fear, you get sloppy. If you let it paralyze you, you quit. You have to ride it.
That connects to his obsession with youth. I found this part really counterintuitive. Usually we think you need experience, connections, wisdom to build an empire. Dennis says, actually, being young and completely broke is the ultimate competitive advantage.
It all comes down to what you have to lose.
Right.
If you're 45, you have a mortgage, you have a reputation, maybe you have kids in private school. The fear of failure is compounded by the fear of losing the comfort you've already built.
So you play defense.
You do. It makes you cautious. But if you are 22 and sleeping on a mattress on the floor, you have zero net worth, zero reputation. You can take risks that would look clinically insane to an older person because your downside is
Still sleeping on a mattress on the floor.
exactly. You're already at the bottom.
Plus, he mentions the stamina factor, the ability to party until 4 in the morning and still pull a 16-hour shift the next day.
Which Dennis famously did. He lived that rock and roll lifestyle while building a publishing empire. But there's a moment in the text that, it really stopped me in my tracks. It's quite poignant.
I think I know the part you mean.
He says that he would trade every single penny of his fortune. The houses, the cars, the winery, the art collection. He would trade it all in a heartbeat to be young and penniless again.
That is heavy. It really drives home that point about time being the only asset you can't buy back. But let's say you are young, or at least young at heart, and you're ready to risk it. How do you actually start? This is where Dennis talks about the search.
The search is his term for finding the right mountain to climb. And his biggest piece of advice here is, do not look for a career.
Which goes against everything our parents told us.
Of course. A career is a trap. It's a slow, incremental climb up a ladder that someone else owns.
You're just trading your time for a salary.
Right. Dennis says if you want to get rich, really rich, you need to look for an opportunity, not a job. Specifically, you need to look for industries that are new, growing fast, and full of what he calls loose capital.
He gives a great example of this from his own life. In the early 80s, personal computers were just starting to happen. And Dennis admits he was a total Luddite.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't know a microchip from a potato chip, but he started publishing computer magazines.
And that is the brilliance of it. Because the industry was so new, nobody knew anything.
Yeah.
There were no established giants yet. In a mature industry like, say, banking or law, you were competing against people with 30 years of experience. You can't beat them.
But in a new industry.
In a new industry, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. If you read 3 books on the subject, you are suddenly the expert.
The instant expert.
Dennis leveraged that ignorance. He realized he didn't need to know how to code. He just needed to know that people wanted to read about coding.
He just walked through the open door while everyone else was wondering if computers were just a fad.
Exactly. And he talks about luck here, too. He doesn't deny it exists. But he loves that Seneca quote, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity."
Or the golfer Gary Player. The harder I practiced, the luckier I got.
That's the one. Dennis believes you have to put yourself in the traffic of opportunity. If you sit in your room, luck can't find you.
Okay, so you found a new industry, you're ready to pounce. This leads to what I think is one of the most liberating parts of the book, the fallacy of the great idea.
Oh, this is critical. We have this mythology in our culture that entrepreneurs are these solitary geniuses who invent something the world has never seen before.
Edison and the light bulb.
Right. Or Zuckerberg inventing Facebook.
Even Zuckerberg didn't really invent social networking, he just refined it.
And that's Dennis's point. He says, ideas are not patentable. You can only patent your own method for implementing an idea.
So ideas are cheap.
Ideas are cheap. Execution is everything.
He uses the McDonald's example, right?
Ray Kroc. Kroc didn't invent the hamburger. He didn't invent the drive-in. He didn't even invent McDonald's. The McDonald brothers did that.
Right.
But Ray Kroc was a genius at execution. He standardized the French fry. He perfected the franchising model. He didn't reinvent the wheel. He just rolled it better than anyone else on earth.
So the lesson is, stop waiting for a lightning bolt of inspiration and just look at what's already working, then do it better.
Emulation, he calls it. And he actually argues that trying to be too innovative is dangerous. He brings up a critique of Apple and Steve Jobs that, well, I have to say, sounds very controversial today.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about this. He kind of tears into Steve Jobs, which feels almost sacrilegious now. But we have to remember, he was writing this in the mid-2000s, right?
That's right.
Before the iPhone took over the universe.
Correct. And his critique was based on the Mac versus PC wars of the 90s. Dennis argued that Steve Jobs' arrogance, his closed boss philosophy, where Apple had to control everything.
The highway or the highway.
Yeah, that it cost them the market. He looked at Microsoft, who licensed Windows to everyone, and saw that as the winning strategy.
So he saw Apple's refusal to collaborate as a weakness.
At the time, from a market share perspective, he wasn't wrong. He felt that innovation without collaboration was a trap.
Sure.
Obviously, history proved that Apple's walled garden eventually won out. But the business principle Dennis is teaching is still valid.
Which is?
Often, the company that is open, compatible, and copies best practices will beat the company that insists on reinventing everything from scratch.
He practiced what he preached, too. He talks about his magazine FHM. It wasn't the first lads mag in the UK. Loaded was the original.
Right. Loaded was the innovator. It was cool, gritty, authentic. Dennis saw it was working, so he launched FHM. He copied the style, but he polished it up.
Made it slicker.
Put better marketing behind it, better ad sales teams, and better paper quality. He emulated the winner and eventually crushed them.
Though he admits when he tried to do the opposite, he failed. He talks about the computer game as magazine war.
That was a painful loss. His competitor was paying for official licenses to put demo discs on the cover of their magazines.
Right, I remember that.
Dennis wanted to be the pirate. He refused to pay for the licenses. He thought he could win on pure editorial attitude. He was wrong.
The market wanted the demos.
The market wanted the demo discs. He refused to emulate the winning model because of his ego, and he lost millions.
Speaking of losing millions, or making them, we need to talk about fuel. You can have the best execution plan in the world, but if you have $0 in the bank, you're just a dreamer with a PowerPoint deck.
This is the capital section. Dennis paints the investment world as a dangerous ocean. He breaks investors down into 3 categories: the sharks, the dolphins, and the fishes.
Okay, sharks I get. Loan sharks.
Right, avoid at all costs. They break legs. But then there are the dolphins. Now, in nature, dolphins are cute and intelligent.
Yeah.
In Felix Dennis's world, dolphins are venture capitalists.
Mm-hmm.
And he says they are lethal.
Why does he hate VCs so much? Isn't that how everyone builds a startup these days? You get a pitch deck, you go to Sand Hill Road, you get a seed round.
He hates them because they're professionals. Their goal isn't to build your dream. Their goal is to flip your company. They want to pump it full of money, blow up the valuation, and sell it within 3 to 5 years.
So they're on a completely different timeline than you are.
Exactly.
Oh.
And the moment you take their money, you're working for them. They take board seats. They take equity. If you miss a growth target, they don't just get mad. They have the legal right to fire you from your own company. Dennis calls this the ultimate trap. You become an employee in your own business.
So who should we take money from?
The fishes.
The fishes.
Fishes are the non-professionals. Friends, family, colleagues, suppliers, people who aren't looking for a 10x exit in 36 months. They invest because they trust you.
Okay.
They're usually passive. They won't try to run the company for you.
There is this incredible story Dennis tells about his first real business, Cosmic Comics. To me, this is the best story in the book. It's the ultimate fish's hustle.
Oh, it's a classic.
Yeah.
So picture this. It's the early 70s. Dennis is broke. He's squatting in a bomb-damaged attic in London.
Literally bomb damage.
From World War II. It had no ceiling and parts. He's freezing. He sells his precious record collection, which for music lovers like selling a limb, just to get a tiny bit of cash.
And he needs to print these comics?
But he can't afford the printer. So what does he do?
Okay.
He pulls a confidence trick, a hustle. He goes to a distributor and convinces them that if they write him a letter of intent, basically saying, we will distribute this comic, he can succeed. He gets the letter. Then he runs to the printer. He shows the printer the letter and says, look, I have a major distributor lined up. If you print this on credit, you are guaranteed to get paid.
He's using the distributor's credibility to trick the printer.
And then he takes the printer's agreement and goes back to the distributor and says, look, I have a printer ready to go. The product is real.
He played them off each other.
He leveraged the trust of the fishes, the relationships, to create capital out of thin air. He didn't give up equity. He just used pure nerve.
That is so risky.
Incredibly risky. If the comic hadn't sold, he would have been ruined. But it worked. And he owned 100% of it.
It seems like that level of risk-taking is just a prerequisite, which leads us to the section on the 5 most common startup errors. And number 1 is a gut punch, mistaking desire for compulsion.
This is where he separates the tourists from the pros. Dennis says that almost everyone desires to be rich. We all want the private island and the Chateau d'Yquem, but very, very few people have the compulsion.
He calls it an inner demon, or a sliver of razored ice in the heart. That sounds kind of sociopathic.
It's definitely not healthy. He's saying that if you are a nice, sensible, well-adjusted person who values work-life balance and spending weekends with your friends, you probably won't make it to the super rich level.
To get there, you need a compulsion.
A compulsion that borders on pathology. You need to be willing to sacrifice relationships, sleep, and sanity.
So if you're happy, stay poor.
In a way, yes. He implies that the drive to get rich often comes from a place of unhappiness or insecurity.
Wow. Okay, error number 2 is more tactical, but he says it's the most common cause of bankruptcy. Over-optimism concerning cash flow.
He calls this the ostrich syndrome.
Hiding your head in the sand.
Yep. Startup founders love to look at the fun stuff, the branding, the product design, the potential millions, but they bury their heads in the sand when it comes to the boring, scary reality of accounts payable.
His advice here is brutally practical. He says you, the founder, should sign every check.
Yes. He says you shouldn't delegate that to an accountant. You need to physically see the money leaving your account. You need to feel the pain of every dollar spent.
Ooh.
If you insulate yourself from that pain, you start spending money you don't have, he says. Walk instead of taking cabs. Never sign a long lease. Keep the payroll low. It's not glamorous, but it's how you survive.
Then there's error number 3, reinforcing failure. This is the sunk cost fallacy, isn't it?
It is. It's the inability to admit you were wrong. Dennis tells the story of Blender, a CD-ROM magazine he launched in the 90s.
God, I remember CD-ROMs. You'd get them in the mail.
Dennis fell in love with the technology. He loved the team. He loved the idea of it. He poured $5 million into that project.
$5 million.
Gone. Because the customers simply didn't want to load a CD-ROM to read a magazine. It was slow and clunky.
Yeah.
But Dennis kept pouring money in, reinforcing failure, because his ego wouldn't let him quit. He ignored the market because he was in love with his own creation.
That $5 million loss stings, but it pales in comparison to error number 4, thinking small and acting big. Now, thinking big is good,
Right.
But acting big. Tell us about the 100 million.
This is the most jaw-dropping stat in the book. Dennis admits that over the course of 1 decade, he wasted over $100 million on acting big.
100 million on what?
Drugs, women, private jets, lavish parties, hotels, hangers-on. He says he was trying to live the lifestyle of a tycoon before he had fully secured the foundations.
Wow.
He nearly destroyed his health and his business because he started believing his own hype.
It's amazing he survived it.
It is. And the lesson is, be humble with your cash until you truly have it. Acting like a big shot is the quickest way to become a little shot.
And finally, error number 5, skimping on talent.
This is the one place where Dennis says you should spend money. You can have cheap furniture, a cheap office, and fly economy.
Okay.
But you cannot have cheap talent. He says talent is the only true asset. You have to identify the best people, pay them whatever they ask, nurture them, and, this is the hard part, fire them quickly if they don't work out.
So if we avoid the sharks, manage our cash flow, and execute like Ray Kroc, what is the internal engine that keeps us going? We're on to the final piece of the puzzle, the cardinal virtues. He boils it down to 2 things.
Persistence and belief.
And again, he illustrates this with a story that chills you to the bone. Literally, we're back in the 70s. It's winter. Dennis is broke again. He can't pay his heating bill.
This is the burning furniture story.
Yes.
It's freezing in his apartment.
Yeah.
So he starts smashing up his own chairs and tables and throwing them into the fireplace just to stay warm.
And his girlfriend is there, right?
She's crying. She's begging him, please, Felix, just give up. Go get a job. This isn't worth it.
That is the breaking point for 99.9% of people.
Oh, absolutely.
When you are burning your own chair to keep from fusing, logic says stop.
But he didn't. That is persistence. It's not just stubbornness. It's the absolute refusal to accept a safe defeat. He knew that if he took a job, the dream was over, so he stayed in the cold.
Which requires the second virtue, self-belief.
He compares it to Winston Churchill in 1940. Britain was alone. The Nazis were sweeping across Europe. Logic, math, military strategy all said Britain was finished.
But Churchill just wouldn't have it.
He had this irrational, unshakable belief in his destiny.
He also mentions Vincent van Gogh.
A man who lived in poverty, mocked by critics, never sold a painting. But he kept painting because he believed the work mattered more than his own comfort. Dennis says that to get rich, you need that kind of delusion. You have to believe you are right, even when the bank, your family, and the world tell you that you are wrong.
So we've taken the journey. We started on a private island with expensive wine, went back to a bomb-damaged attic, burned some furniture, made millions, wasted $100 million, and ended up back on the island.
It's quite a ride.
But I want to circle back to the very beginning. We established that the method is actually pretty boring. It's execution, cash flow, hiring good people. There's no magic spell.
Right.
But what is the so what for the listener? Why should we care about Felix Dennis?
I think the so what is a warning label. Dennis wrote a guide on how to get rich, but in doing so, he showed us the price tag.
The sliver of razor dice.
Exactly. To achieve that level of wealth, you have to harden yourself.
Yeah.
You have to prioritize the business above your family, your friends, your health. Dennis is very open about the fact that this pursuit coarsened his soul.
He wasn't happy.
He died a very wealthy man, but he also died with a lot of regrets about lost time and lost relationships.
And he leaves us with that paradox we mentioned earlier. He's sitting there in paradise, king of the world, and he looks the reader in the eye and says, I would trade all of this to be you, young, broke, and starting out.
It forces the listener to ask a terrifying question. Is the prize worth the race?
So I guess the final thought to leave everyone with is this. Dennis asks, Do you have the compulsion? Because if you just have the desire, if you just want a nice house and good vacations, this narrow, lonely road probably isn't for you. You might be happier being a fish.
But if you have the demon, if you can't help yourself,
Yeah.
then at least now you know what you're in for.
On that cheery note, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
A pleasure.
Catch you on the next one.